All right, all right. Let's talk a little bit today about jobs, growth, and so forth. I think this will resonate a little bit better with most folks rather than the concept of value. I got some heat for, but it was fun. So jobs, right? First thing is I hear everybody. It's the same mentality on Instagram. Oh, I don't want a 9 to 5 because I want to be successful. This has somewhat 9 to 5 has somewhat become a dirty word, and I don't understand why. I do a 9 to 5, right? I'm doing pretty well. It's all good. So how is that a failure? It's become such a dirty word that people don't understand as people don't understand the concept of risk, right? 9 to 5. What is a 9 to 5? I know what we attribute that to. We attribute that to what? Going into a cube, working for somebody. That itself is a bad thing, right? But again, I'm doing pretty good, and I work for somebody. If you really think about it, we all work for somebody, right? You pay taxes in some ways, maybe in a little bit twisted way. You're working for somebody. You're working for the U.S. government to some degree. But anyways, let me not deviate from the point, right? So 9 to 5, right? It's become a dirty word, I think, because we don't understand the risk associated with certain things. What do I mean, right? You can be successful 9 to 5, and you can also be successful owning your own business. You just have to understand the risks that come with that and the timing. And what does that mean? When you have your own business, you have a greater potential quicker. I would agree to that. But you also have a higher likelihood of failure. Why? Because of the competitive nature of that business, because of what is required and expected you to do. That means hustle and grind and put in 150%. And that's not just to say I'm putting 150%. That's to put in 80 hours and not have a break. Not have a break over not a course of 3, 4 weeks, but maybe a course of 4 years. And not to say, oh, I need a break or I'm burnt out. There is no burnt out when you have your own business, and that then segues itself into a quality of life, right? So why do I say potential? Potential because if you do that, and if you have the right structure, right? It's not only effort, it's also structure and understanding business, right? If you do that and you are consistent with that and you understand different terminologies or different concepts such as marketing and you're effective in those, then you have a greater potential. You have a greater potential on a return. Now, because, right, so you have a greater potential on a return. Now, what's 9 to 5? But you also take a higher risk. So, what is that risk? That risk was evident during COVID. During COVID, there was almost no successful business. Everybody took a hit. You know why? Because when the income stops, the expenses don't. And if you hire people, and that's just a natural nature of owning your own business, if you truly want to grow, why? Because you only have 40 hours weekly capacity, or 50 or 60, whatever that is. It's limited, it's capped. Anything over 60, you may say, okay, but I can do 70. Okay, fine, I'll use that as an argument. But anything over some number of hours, which for me is 40 or maybe 45 or 50, it's affecting your quality of life. So you do have a fixed amount, so you will need to hire workers, right? And with that comes risk of expenses, right? And when COVID hit, so you saw people lose almost everything, right? So there's a huge level of risk associated with the possibility of a greater reward, right? So it's neither to say that one direction or one way is better than the other. It is more to say that you need to understand the risks that come with something, right? A huge thing in business is differentiation. That doesn't mean I'm better. That doesn't mean but I know how to do this, and that also doesn't mean price. Because if competitors keep undercutting their own price, then they erode their profits and they end up with nothing. So without even getting into the business aspect of it, that's the thing about owning your own business. Now there are tremendous amount of successful people, and we typically hear about those individuals, but we don't hear the failures, and that's fine. Now what about 9 to 5, right? 9 to 5, you typically have to have some type of a degree, which I guess society calls qualifications. We're not going to get into whether that degree makes you intelligent or not, or how much it costs, and how long before you pay that off, and how that factors into anything. But you typically are required to have something, right? I didn't set the rules. I'm working within the constraints of the game. So once you have that, you've probably spent some amount of time and money. Now you have an immediate need or immediate idea that you're going to have some type of return on investment, meaning, okay, I'm going to get paid now. Well, you're wrong. You're probably going to sit in a cube, work for somebody. And the reason that somebody is typically bad or leaves a bad taste in our mouth is because there aren't many true leaders. There aren't many true effective managers. Managers tell people what to do. They don't incentivize what to do. So that's why this is the experience that I've had throughout my career for a while, until I found somebody that actually saw more in me than I saw in myself and saw a potential, right? And it's very hard to find a person like that because it's almost attributed to luck. So that's why 9 to 5 is a dirty word. So now you're making some money, right? You're making some money. The government's taking taxes, as with you have little write-offs when you work in a corporate environment, right? So you're not making that much. And now that career, what I call a career, is slowly progressing, right? But every year you're making more. You're not making less. And so because you're making more, there's something called a compound interest. We're not going to get into that as well. But over time, this adds up. Now, most people don't have an appetite for overtime. We want shit now. So that's why we see it as, again, it's something we don't want to do. But over time, it adds up. And then you get to a certain level, provided you had emotional intelligence, provided you didn't bite the hand that feeds you, provided you found the right coach, leader, mentor, or manager. And that's hard to do. I agree. But once you do that and you get to a certain level, and this is what I call a career, you make more and more money and you don't have much risk. There's probably less than 10% risk or zero. Why? If I get fired or I want to leave from a corporation, I go to another one. I start off exactly where the money I got from day one. I don't have to start from zero, right? So it's hard to fail once you get to a certain level. Now, getting to that level is hard and it takes a lot, and it's probably a podcast video in itself. But anytime somebody tells you 9 to 5, or I don't want to do 9 to 5, that's not necessarily the right approach. You need to understand the risk, you need to understand the direction, and you need to understand that sometimes the road less traveled, or what takes a longer amount of time, even though you don't have appetite for it, may be a good return. It doesn't have to be a bad return, right? So I think that's the point of the little talk I had today. Next topic, I guess I'll talk a little bit about change. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think.